The rickshaw releases you at the edge of the old city, just as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting Varanasi's ancient walls in shades of amber and rose. The driver's weathered hands accept your rupees with a gentle nod, and then he's gone, the little three-wheeled vehicle puttering away into the maze of narrow streets, its engine fading from a rattle to a hum to silence, leaving you standing at the threshold between the modern world and stones worn smooth by 3,000 years of pilgrims' feet. The air here is different from the rest of India, thicker somehow, layered with centuries of incense and flowers, wood smoke and river moisture. It carries weight, this air, as if holding the prayers of countless pilgrims who have walked these same stones before you. You breathe it in slowly, feeling your shoulders begin to drop, your pace naturally slowing to match the unhurried rhythm of pilgrims making their way toward the water. The path ahead slopes downward, and you follow it, drawn by the sound of bells. Not the harsh clanging of city traffic, but something softer, more musical. Bronze bells, brass bells, tiny silver bells on anklets, all creating a gentle percussion that seems to rise from the very stones beneath your feet. The alleyway narrows, buildings pressing close on either side, their walls worn smooth by countless hands steadying themselves on this descent toward the sacred river. A vendor sits cross-legged beside baskets of marigolds, their orange petals so vivid they seem to glow in the fading light. Her fingers work steadily, threading flowers into garlands, the soft snap of stems breaking and the whisper of petals brushing together, creating their own quiet rhythm. The scent reaches you before you pass, sweet and earthy, fresh, yet somehow ancient. She looks up, holding out a small garland. "Sandhya aarti," she says softly, nodding toward the river. "Evening prayers, starting soon." You accept the flowers with both hands, their coolness surprising against your palms, and she smiles, already threading the next chain for the next traveller on this well-worn path to the water. You continue downward, and now you can hear it, the Ganges. Not just the water itself, but the life that surrounds it. Voices raised in prayer, the splash of ritual bathing, the soft slap of wet cloth against stone as dhobis finish the last of their washing for the day. The sounds layer upon each other like instruments in an orchestra warming up, each finding its own rhythm while somehow harmonizing with the whole. The alley opens suddenly, and there it is, the great expanse of the Dashashwamedh hut spreading before you like a cascade of worn stone steps descending to the river. The steps are crowded but not chaotic, everyone moving with purpose yet without hurry. Priests in saffron robes prepare for the evening aarti ceremony. Pilgrims in white cotton lower themselves carefully down the ancient stairs. Children dart between the adults, their laughter bright as temple bells. You find yourself drawn to the right, following the curve of the hut until you discover a quieter section, a small platform jutting out over the water where someone has arranged cushions and low wooden seats for viewing the evening ceremony. The keeper of this spot, an elderly man with eyes that crinkle at the corners, gestures to an empty cushion. You settle onto it gratefully, feeling the accumulated warmth of the day radiating up through the fabric from the stone beneath. From here, the view opens completely. The Ganges stretches wide and dark before you, its surface broken by the wakes of wooden boats carrying tourists and pilgrims alike. But it's the light that captures you. Hundreds of small oil lamps, diyas, already beginning to appear along the ghats. Each one is a tiny sun, a pinprick of warm light that doubles itself in the water's reflection. As more are lit, they create constellations both on the steps and in the river, until you can't tell where the earthbound stars end and their watery twins begin. The sun continues its descent, and the sky above the far bank burns through shades of fire, orange to coral to deep crimson. The river catches every color, breaking them into ribbons of light that dance between the boats. Ancient buildings along the ghats glow in this light, their faded paintings of gods and goddesses seeming to breathe with color. In the distance, a conch shell sounds, the deep, hollow call of a shank echoing across the water, answered by another from upstream, then another, like temples calling to each other across the sacred city. A young boy approaches with a tray of diyas, each one nestled in a small boat made from pressed leaves. His movements are practiced but gentle, as he demonstrates how to cup the little vessel in your palms, how to ensure the cotton wick is properly positioned. You take one, feeling the weight of it, so light yet somehow significant. The flame flickers but doesn't go out, protected by your curved fingers as you carry it to the water's edge. Others are doing the same all along the ghat, and you join this quiet procession. At the water, you crouch down, feeling the coolness rising from the river despite the evening's warmth. The Ganges moves steadily, eternally, carrying the offerings of the faithful as it has for thousands of years. You lower your diya to the surface and release it, watching as the current catches the little leaf boat and carries it out to join hundreds of others, a floating galaxy of wishes and prayers. You return to your cushion, the silk fabric cool against your palms as you lower yourself back down. A breeze from the river touches your face, carrying droplets so fine they're more sensation than moisture. You shift slightly, finding that perfect position where your spine naturally straightens, where the residual warmth from the stone beneath rises through the cushion to meet the cooling air above. Somewhere behind you, bicycle bells chime as late workers head home through the narrow galeys, their sound mixing with the temple bells like two different clocks keeping the same eternal time. The temple bells begin to ring in earnest now, not randomly, but with rhythm and purpose. The aarti ceremony is beginning. Young priests emerge from the temples, carrying massive brass lamps, five-tiered contraptions that blaze with fire. They move in synchronization, their arms describing circles and spirals, the flames leaving trails in your vision like you've been staring at the sun. The movement is hypnotic, circular, eternal, like the cycle of the river itself. Incense smoke begins to rise from dozens of sources, thick, aromatic clouds that catch the lamplight and turn it hazy, dreamlike. Sandalwood mingles with jasmine, sage with camphor and crushed marigolds, the sharp sweetness of temple flowers mixed with something deeper, perhaps nagchampa, or the particular resin burned only here, only for Ganga Maya, as you hear a woman nearby whisper to the river. The smoke doesn't sting your eyes, but seems to soften everything, making the hard edges of the world blur into something more forgiving, more gentle. You settle back onto your cushion, letting the sensory symphony wash over you. The warmth from the stone beneath has now become a comfort rather than intensity. Around you, others are finding their own stillness. An elderly woman fingering prayer beads with a soft clicking rhythm, a young couple sitting shoulder to shoulder in silent observation, a small girl leaning against her grandmother's knee, humming something tuneless and sweet. From somewhere upstream comes the sound of a wooden flute, its notes floating over the water like the diyas themselves. The sounds of the city behind you, the horns, the engines, the electronic beeps of modern life, fade until they're just a distant hum, no more intrusive than the buzz of evening insects. Here by the river, time moves differently. It pools and eddies like the water itself, sometimes rushing forward, sometimes pausing in quiet whirlpools where past and present meet. As the ceremony continues, you notice your breathing has changed. It's deeper now, matching the rhythm of the priest's movements, the regular ring of the bells, the eternal flow of the river. The stone beneath you no longer feels hard, but supportive, holding you exactly as you need to be held. The incense smoke carries your thoughts upward and away, leaving only this moment, this evening ritual that has been performed every sunset for centuries, as regular as breathing, as certain as the river's flow. The first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky above, echoing the lights below. Venus emerges first, bright and steady above the river. Then others follow, one by one, until the boundary between sky and water becomes unclear, everything reflecting everything else in endless patterns of light. You are here, present in this evening ritual that has been performed every sunset for centuries, as regular as breathing, as certain as the river's flow. The evening embraces you like a prayer shawl, soft and encompassing. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, just this, sitting by the sacred river as darkness gently falls, watching the eternal dance of flame and water, feeling yourself become part of something that was ancient when Rome was young, and will continue long after the last satellite falls from the sky. The warmth of the stone continues to rise through your body, releasing the last of the day's tensions. Your eyelids grow pleasantly heavy, not with sleep yet, but with the deep relaxation that comes from finally, truly arriving somewhere. You are here. You are held. The ancient river flows on, carrying its cargo of prayers and lights into the gathering night. The boatman's hand is cool and steady as it helps you step down into the wooden boat, the vessel rocking gently with your weight before finding its balance. It's that particular hour before dawn, when the world exists in shades of deep blue and silver, when even the air seems to be holding its breath in anticipation of the coming day. The wood beneath you is worn smooth by countless journeys, slightly damp with river moisture and morning dew. You settle onto the simple plank seat, feeling the boat's gentle sway, like being cradled in large, patient hands. Subah ki aarti dekhenge, the boatman murmurs. You'll see the morning prayers. His voice is soft, respecting the pre-dawn quiet as he unties the rope from the ghats iron ring. The sound of hemp against metal is somehow musical in the stillness. He positions himself at the stern, and with one practiced push of his oar against the stone steps, you glide out onto the open water. The Ganges at this hour is like liquid mercury, its surface disturbed only by your boat's passage. Each dip of the oars creates perfect circles that expand outward, catching what little light exists. Starlight, the fading moon, the first suggestion of dawn that might be imagination more than reality. The rhythm is hypnotic. Dip, pull, lift, drip. Dip, pull, lift, drip. Water droplets fall from the oar blades like a string of pearls breaking, each one making its own tiny splash before being absorbed back into the whole. The air is different out here on the water, cooler, cleaner somehow, carrying the mineral scent of the river mixed with something green and alive. You breathe it deeply, feeling it fill your lungs with the kind of freshness that only comes in these moments between night and day. Mist rises from the water's surface in delicate wisps, as if the river itself is breathing out the dreams it collected during the night. Along the ghats, the city is just beginning to stir. A few oil lamps still burn from the evening before, their flames now competing with the gradually lightening sky. Your hand trails over the boat's edge, fingers dipping into the cool water, the temperature contrast making you more aware of the warming air above. The river feels like silk against your skin, soft and continuous. You drift past Manikarnika Ghat, where the cremation fires never cease, their glow a constant reminder of life's cycles. Even from here you can hear the soft chanting that accompanies the rituals, ancient Sanskrit syllables floating across the water like benedictions. The boatman rows in silence, understanding that some moments need no translation. As you continue downstream, the eastern horizon begins its daily transformation. What was uniform darkness starts to separate into layers, the sky lighter than the land, the river reflecting both and creating a third space between them. The first hint of color appears, not quite pink, not quite gold, but something in between, like the inside of a conch shell. It spreads slowly, unhurried as everything else in this ancient city, turning the mist into something luminous. A temple bell rings out, bronze and deep, its sound traveling across the water with perfect clarity. Then another answers from a different ghat, and another, until the river carries a conversation of bells, each with its own pitch and personality. Some are bright and quick, others low and contemplative. Together they create a morning raga that needs no human voice to complete it. The boat passes under the shadow of a massive banyan tree that has somehow grown from the side of a crumbling palace wall. Its aerial roots hang down like curtains, some thick as your arm, others delicate as rain. Birds are beginning to wake within its shelter. First one tentative chirp, then an answer. Then suddenly the whole tree comes alive with song. Parakeets, miners, sparrows, and birds whose names you don't know but whose voices you'll remember, all greeting the approaching day with an enthusiasm that makes you smile. You pass Asi Ghat, where early morning yogis are already arranging themselves into their asanas on the stone platforms. You shift slightly on the wooden seat, finding a more comfortable position, your spine naturally straightening as you watch them. Their breathing is audible even from the water. Deep, controlled inhalations and exhalations that seem to draw the morning into their bodies and release the night. Some stand in vrikshasana, tree pose, balanced on one leg, as still as the architecture around them. Others flow through Surya Namaskar, their sun salutations greeting the light that has not yet shown its face, preparing their bodies to receive its warmth. The boatman adjusts course slightly, angling toward the center of the river, where the current is gentler. From here, you can see the entire curve of the city's waterfront, ghat after ghat, in an unbroken chain. Each one with its own character, its own purpose, its own stories. Some are grand with elaborate architecture, others simple stone steps. All of them are beginning to fill with people drawn to the water by faith, tradition, or simple daily routine. The sky continues its evolution, and now there's no denying that dawn is coming. The blue deepens and warms, becoming that particular shade that makes your chest expand with quiet joy. The mist on the water turns golden at its edges, each wisp becoming a small celebration of light. A man wades into the river at Dashashwamedh Ghat, the water reaching his waist. He cups his hands, raises the water to the sky, then lets it fall back, creating a small cascade that catches the growing light. He does this 3 times, then dunks himself completely, emerging with water streaming from his hair and beard. His lips move in silent prayer, or perhaps not silent, but simply too far away to hear. Others follow his example, each person entering the water in their own way, some bold, some tentative, all seeking something in the river's embrace. The boat drifts past a ghat where dobies are already at work, though the sun hasn't yet risen. The sound of wet cloth meeting stone creates a steady percussion that seems to synchronize with your heartbeat. They work in darkness made less dark by habit, their movements economical and precise. From somewhere near the steps, the sweet cardamom and ginger scent of brewing chai drifts across the water, steam rising from small clay cups to meet the morning mist. You can almost taste the creamy sweetness, the gentle spice that would warm you from within, though you remain content just breathing in its comforting fragrance. Bright saris and white sheets are already spread on the steps to dry, creating geometric patterns of color against the ancient stone. You notice your breathing has matched the rhythm of the oars, the steady percussion of the washing, the gentle lap of water against the boat's hull. Everything moves to the same measured tempo, as if the river conducts all activity along its banks, keeping everyone in time with some cosmic metronome. The first ray of actual sunlight breaks the horizon, and everything shifts into warmer tones. What was silver becomes gold. What was suggested becomes revealed. The river surface turns into hammered metal, soft and luminous. The buildings along the ghats, temples, palaces, ashrams, simple homes, all catch the early light, their walls glowing as if holding centuries of sunrises within their stones. You understand gradually why this city is considered sacred, why pilgrims travel thousands of miles to bathe in these waters at precisely this moment. The everyday world has become something quieter and deeper, yet remains completely itself. Birds rise from the trees in gentle waves, hundreds of pigeons moving as one breathing thing, their wings catching the light as they turn. They circle over the river once, twice, then settle back exactly where they started, as if they too wanted to acknowledge the sun's arrival before returning to their morning rest. The boatman lets the boat drift now, no longer rowing, allowing the gentle current to carry you. His face is peaceful in the morning light, weathered by years of sun and water, but somehow ageless. He watches the sunrise with quiet focus, his eyes soft, his breathing as steady as the river itself. The morning sun warms your face now, a gentle touch that makes your shoulders drop even further, releasing any remaining tension into the wooden seat beneath you. A flower seller's boat approaches, the small craft laden with marigolds and roses, jasmine and lotus blossoms. The seller, a woman whose age is impossible to determine, offers you a small lotus. You accept it, feeling its waxy petals, still cool with night despite the warming air. She continues on, her boat leaving a trail of fallen petals on the water, each one a small boat carrying its own cargo of light. The city is stirring into its morning rhythm now. The sounds build in layers like silk scarves laid one upon another. First the bells, then the chanting, then water splashing against stone. Voices calling greetings across the ghats, birds singing from the trees, oars dipping into water. But out here on the river, you remain in a bubble of relative quiet, watching it all from this gently rocking vantage point. The boatman begins to row again, slowly, unhurried, in no rush to return to shore. Each stroke takes you past new scenes. A group of sadhus with ash-painted faces performing their morning puja. Children learning to swim in the shallows. An old woman feeding birds from a bag of grain. The morning light continues to strengthen, but it's still soft, still kind. It illuminates without harshness, reveals without judgment. The mist is burning off now, the last wisps clinging to the water before dissolving into the warming air. Your body has relaxed completely into the rhythm of the boat, the gentle rocking as natural as breathing. As the boatman begins to angle back toward the ghats, you realize the morning has carried you into a different state of being. The river's rhythm has become part of your breathing, steady and continuous. The boat approaches the steps where you began, but everything looks different in the morning light, softer, more patient. The same stones that glowed with lamplight last evening now hold the gentle warmth of sunrise. The boatman steadies the boat against the ghat, and you prepare to step back onto solid ground, knowing the day ahead holds more to discover. More quiet corners of this eternal city, waiting to share their stories. The morning has settled into its deeper rhythms as you leave the riverfront behind, turning into one of the narrow gullies that wind through Varanasi's old city like veins through an ancient body. The temperature drops immediately in the shade of the buildings that lean toward each other overhead, some so close you could touch both walls by stretching out your arms. The stones beneath your bare feet, you left your sandals at the entrance of the last temple, are worn into gentle depressions, each one a memory of the millions who have walked this same path. The alley smells of sandalwood and stone dust, old cotton and fresh flowers, incense that has seeped so deeply into the walls it has become part of their molecular structure. The faint sweetness of jasmine garlands hung fresh this morning, already beginning to brown at the edges. A cow stands perfectly still in a widening of the path, her eyes half closed in contemplation, forcing pedestrians to flow around her like water around a stone. Someone has painted her horns with turmeric, the yellow powder dusting her face like pollen. You follow the sound of chanting, low and rhythmic, until you find its source. A small temple you would have walked past without noticing, if not for the voices drawing you in. The entrance is barely shoulder width, marked only by a worn Ganesh carved into the doorframe, his elephant head rubbed nearly smooth by countless fingers seeking blessings. You duck through, and the space opens into unexpected vastness. The ceiling disappearing into shadows so deep the walls seem to dissolve into darkness above. An elderly priest sits before a black stone lingam, his voice never pausing in its recitation of Sanskrit verses that are older than most civilizations. The words rise and fall like breath, like waves, like the slow wearing away of mountains. He doesn't acknowledge your presence, but somehow includes you in the prayer's embrace. The floor here is marble, cool and smooth, with patches worn so thin you can see the veining of the stone beneath, like looking through ice to the water below. In one corner, a small group of women sit sorting marigold petals from their stems, their fingers moving with the kind of efficiency that comes from decades of practice. They work in silence except for the soft rustle of flowers and the occasional quiet laugh when someone's grandchild, barely walking, toddles over to grab handfuls of orange petals and throw them in the air. The child's delight is met with gentle scolding that contains no real disapproval. And soon the petals are being gathered again, the cycle continuing. You slip back out into the alley and continue deeper into the maze. Here, the city reveals its layers like an archaeological dig you can walk through. A Muslim doorway, its pointed arch decorated with geometric patterns that seem to shift if you don't look directly at them, opens onto a Hindu courtyard where a banyan tree has grown through and around a Buddhist stupa, so old its original form is barely discernible. The tree's roots embrace the ancient stone with a patience that makes human time seem frantically quick. The sound of looms draws you up a narrow staircase where each step is a different height, as if built by someone who forgot to measure, or perhaps believed that variation kept the climber alert. At the top, a doorway opens onto a workshop where 3 men sit at wooden looms, their hands and feet moving in complex patterns that create silk fabric, one thread at a time. The afternoon light. When did it become afternoon? Slants through high windows, turning the golden threads into lines of fire. The oldest weaver, his back curved from decades of bending over his work, doesn't look up as you enter. His fingers know the pattern so well, they could work in complete darkness. The design emerging from his loom is intricate beyond comprehension. Peacocks and paisleys, flowers and vines, all interwoven in silk so fine it seems to float rather than hang. 3 months, his assistant says quietly, noticing your attention. This piece, 3 months. For a wedding in Mumbai. Same pattern his grandfather made, and his grandfather's grandfather. The rhythm of the looms is hypnotic. Clack thump, like a heartbeat made of wood and thread. You find yourself breathing to this rhythm, your body swaying slightly, as if the sound has physical weight that moves you. On a low shelf, bolts of completed silk catch the light. Deep crimsons, midnight blues, greens like temple pools. Some are shot through with gold thread so delicate it could be spider silk painted with sunlight. The assistant offers you chai in a small clay cup, its earthy scent mixing with the silk dust that fills the air like golden pollen. The tea is sweet and spiced, cardamom and ginger warming your throat. You haven't realized how thirsty you were until this moment, how the morning's journey has left you ready for this exact pause, this exact sweetness. The clay cup is rough against your lips, grounding you in the physical world, even as the loom's rhythm carries your mind into older patterns. Through another doorway, you glimpse a courtyard where saris dry on lines strung between windows, their colours creating a canopy of silk that turns the sunlight into stained glass patterns on the floor below. A woman sits in the shade, stitching gold borders onto fabric with thread so fine it's nearly invisible. Her needle moves in and out with the regularity of breathing, each stitch precisely the same length as the last, creating patterns that will outlive everyone currently alive in this building. You leave the weavers to their ancient work and descend back into the streets. The afternoon has transformed the city's energy, less urgent than morning, not yet surrendered to evening's peace. Shops are open but unhurried, their owners sitting in doorways on low stools, conducting business with the patience of people who know their customers will return tomorrow, if not today. A sound stops you, not quite music, not quite prayer, something between the two. Following it leads you to another courtyard, This one, centered around a Krishna temple, painted the blue of deep evening. You lean against a stone pillar in the shade, its coolness spreading through your shoulder and back, a relief from the afternoon warmth. Musicians sit on the temple steps, a tabla player's hands moving in flowing patterns across the drums, a harmonium breathing its reedy voice into the drowsy air, and an old man singing bhajans with a voice like honey poured over gravel. The songs are devotional, but also somehow lullabies, meant to soothe the deity into afternoon rest. Children have gathered to listen, sitting quietly on the ground, swaying slightly to the rhythm like grass in a gentle breeze. One small girl moves her hands in mudras, telling the story through unhurried gestures, her fingers creating birds and flowers and rivers in the air. Somewhere behind you, a bicycle bell rings lazily as someone navigates the narrow street, and pigeons coo from the temple eaves, their soft voices mixing with the music. Her grandmother watches from a doorway, nodding approval when the child remembers a particularly complex sequence. The stones here tell their own stories. You notice how different areas are worn in different patterns, smooth grooves where water has been poured in daily offerings for centuries, deep depressions where knees have rested in prayer, polished patches where countless hands have steadied themselves while rising. The temple wall bears inscriptions in scripts you cannot read. Sanskrit, Old Hindi, something that might be Pali. Some are carved deep and clear, others so faint they're more texture than text, like whispers in stone. As you stand reading these unreadable histories, a priest emerges from the temple, carrying a brass plate of prasad, small sweets made of milk and sugar, each one pressed with the image of Krishna's flute. He offers you one without speaking, his smile creating deep lines around eyes that have watched this same courtyard for decades. The sweet dissolves on your tongue, its richness balanced with cardamom, leaving behind a taste like childhood comfort, though you may never have tasted this exact sweet before. The sun has begun its descent toward evening, painting the upper walls gold while the lower streets fall into purple shadow. You realize you've been walking for hours but feel no fatigue, only a pleasant looseness in your limbs, as if the city's rhythm has replaced your usual patterns of tension and hurry. Your breathing has slowed to match the pace of this place, where time is measured in centuries rather than minutes. One more turn brings you to an unexpected opening, a small square where 5 streets meet, centered around a well so old its original builders are not just forgotten, but beyond even myth. The well's rim is worn into scallops, where ropes have pulled water up for 30 centuries. Women still draw water here, their brass vessels catching the late light as they pull them up, hand over hand, the rope singing against the stone. You sit on the well's edge, feeling the stored warmth of the day radiating from the stone. Your shoulders drop as you settle into this perfect resting spot, tension you didn't know you were carrying releasing into the ancient stone. Around you, the city continues its rhythm, temples and mosques calling their faithful, sellers wheeling carts of vegetables home for the night, the soft scrape of wooden shutters being pulled closed, children playing games whose rules haven't changed in 1,000 years. The silk you saw being woven will become part of someone's wedding, adding another layer to the countless ceremonies that have blessed unions in this city. The prayers you heard will join the endless river of devotion that flows through these streets, as constantly as the Ganges flows past the ghats. Your hands rest flat on the warm stone beside you, feeling your pulse slow to match the unhurried pace of evening. From somewhere nearby comes the sound of someone sweeping their doorstep. The rhythmic whish, whish of the broom, like a whispered conversation with the street. Evening birds are settling in the trees with soft chirps and rustles, their day complete. A brass vessel clanks gently against the well's rim as a late visitor draws water, the rope creaking its ancient song. A temple bell rings somewhere close, then another farther away, then another, until the whole city seems to be gently chiming. It's not the dramatic call of morning or evening aarti, just the quiet marking of another moment passing, another breath in the city's endless breathing. You sit and listen, feeling how you've become part of this rhythm, another thread in the vast fabric of this place. The stones beneath you hold their warmth a little longer, and you rest in that warmth, knowing that evening is beginning to paint the city in new colors. Soon you'll rise and continue wandering through the softening light. But for now, you let the well's edge hold you. Let the city's ancient patience seep into your bones. The evening stretches ahead, full of quiet corners still to discover. More stories waiting in the purple shadows between day and night. The afternoon has ripened into its fullest warmth as you drift from the well into narrower streets, where the buildings lean so close their upper stories nearly touch, creating tunnels of shade that smell of cooling stone and old wood. The heat has weight here, even in the shade. It presses gently, encouraging slowness, making each movement deliberate. Your breathing naturally deepens, your eyelids feeling pleasantly heavy from the afternoon's accumulated warmth. Through doorways you glimpse the silk quarter's colors, vermilion and saffron sleeping in shadows, rolls of fabric stacked like solid rainbows at rest, threads hanging in skeins that barely stir in the still air. A spice seller's pyramids doze behind glass, their perfect geometry undisturbed, turmeric glowing softly like banked embers. The scents drift out to the street, coriander and cardamom, cinnamon and cloves, mixing with jasmine garlands and sandalwood smoke into an invisible tapestry that wraps around you, soft as silk itself. Here, a man sits cross-legged on a platform, his fingers moving in slow rhythm as he embroiders gold thread onto deep purple silk. The needle flashes in and out, in and out, creating paisley patterns that seem to bloom from the fabric itself. His concentration is complete, a meditation in thread and time. The soft sound of thread through fabric adds its whisper to the afternoon's quiet music. The particular dustiness of silk fills these streets like a soft fog, sweet on your tongue, mixing with incense from a nearby temple. Somewhere, sandalwood is burning, its smoke creating lazy spirals that hang in the still air before dissolving into memory. A doorway painted the blue of Krishna's skin catches your eye. Through it, you glimpse a courtyard you wouldn't have known existed, an old haveli, its carved wooden balconies overlooking a small garden where a fountain trickles water over worn stones. The sound pulls you in, that liquid music promising coolness, rest, a pause in the afternoon's slow journey. Inside, the haveli has been converted into the quietest of cafes. No signs announce it, no menu boards clutter the walls, just a few low tables surrounded by cushions, and ceiling fans turning so slowly they seem to be measuring time rather than moving air. The blades create a rhythm. Whoosh, 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 that immediately syncs with your breathing, while beneath it, the fountain maintains its liquid whisper, constant as a heartbeat. You settle onto the cushions, feeling your body sink into their embrace. They're covered in fabric that might be 50 years old, patterns faded to suggestions, colors softened to the palette of evening clouds. The floor beneath is marble, cool even through the cushions, its surface worn into gentle undulations by centuries of footsteps. The owner appears. She was always there, so still you hadn't noticed. She sets down a brass tray with a glass of nimbu pani, the lime water beaded with condensation, a small plate of cardamom cookies that crumble at the lightest touch. She nods toward the fountain, visible through an archway, as if to say, "That's why you're here, for the sound, for the coolness it suggests, even if you don't touch the water." Through the latticed windows, jali work so intricate it turns solid walls into lace. The afternoon light filters in, broken into 1,000 pieces. The patterns dance slowly across the floor as the sun moves, creating and destroying geometric mandalas with measured precision. The fountain's voice weaves through the visual display, each trickle and splash adding its own note to the afternoon's quiet symphony. You watch this light show while sipping the lime water, its tartness balanced with just enough sugar, a hint of black salt adding complexity that makes you pay attention to each sip. The sounds of the Silk Quarter filter through, but softened, as if the Haveli exists in a bubble of quiet within the city's constant voice. A rickshaw bell rings 3 times, then falls silent. Temple bells chime in the distance, not urgent, just marking another moment in the afternoon's progression. Someone is practicing tabla nearby, the rhythms stopping and starting as they work through a difficult passage. A vendor calls out, selling something, fruit or flowers, his voice melodic, almost singing. The fountain beneath it all keeps its steady rhythm. Water over stone, timeless and patient. You notice your shoulders have dropped. Tension you weren't aware of carrying, released into the cushions. The ceiling fan continues its slow rotation, and you find yourself watching its shadow move across the ceiling. A darker circle within a circle, hypnotic in its regularity. Time stretches here. Minutes might be hours. The lime water glass empties sip by sip, but you don't remember drinking it all. The fountain murmurs its approval of this slowness, this surrender to the afternoon's wait. Through another doorway, you glimpse the Haveli's other rooms, one filled with books, their spines faded, pages probably brittle with age. Another holds what looks like a collection of musical instruments, sitars and tablas, waiting quietly for evening, when someone might wake them into song. But you don't explore. The cushions hold you, the fountain sings to you, the afternoon light continues its slow painting of the walls. A cat appears from nowhere, don't they always? And settles near your feet. Its purring adds another layer to the afternoon's music, harmonizing with the fountain's trickle and the fan's whisper. Orange and white, with eyes that hold all the wisdom of the quarter's narrow streets, it watches you for a moment before closing its eyes, demonstrating the proper way to spend an afternoon like this. You shift position on the cushions, finding new comfort. The Haveli holds you like cupped hands, protective but not constraining. Somewhere in the building someone is preparing tea. You can smell it, chai spices warming in milk, the particular sweetness that comes from slow cooking. The sound of liquid being poured, cup meeting saucer with a gentle clink. The fountain seems to echo these sounds, water into water, an endless conversation about flow and containment. The owner returns, this time with that tea, served in small clay cups that will be broken after use, returned to earth. The first sip is almost too hot, but perfect in its heat, spreading warmth through your chest that has nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with comfort. Ginger and cardamom, a hint of black pepper. Sweetness that doesn't overwhelm. It's the taste of the afternoon itself, distilled into liquid form. As you sit with the tea, the light continues its transformation through the jali windows. Amber now, painting everything in honey tones. The steam from your cup catches this light, creating small spirals that disappear into the Haveli's shadows. The cat stretches, extends claws that could tell stories of midnight hunts, then settles again into a slightly different circle of fur and contentment. The ceiling fan maintains its measured rhythm, the fountain beneath it keeping liquid time. Your breathing now perfectly matched to both. The cushions have molded to your body, creating a perfect nest, from which rising seems impossible and unnecessary. Through the windows, birds begin their evening gatherings, their chatter a distant texture against the silk quarter's quieting streets. The smell of cooking begins, cumin and coriander in hot oil, bread warming on iron plates. The day is shifting, not ending, but transforming into something softer. The fountain's song seems deeper now, as if the approaching evening has added bass notes to its voice. You realize you could stay here, become part of the Haveli's quiet story. Another soul who found this hidden refuge and learned its rhythm of stillness within motion, silence within sound. But the evening calls gently, not pulling but suggesting. There are ghats to return to, evening prayers to witness, the river to sit beside as darkness comes. The fountain seems to understand, its whisper taking on an encouraging tone. You rise slowly from the cushions, your body reluctant to leave their embrace. Each movement feels deliberate, as if you're moving through warm honey. The owner nods as you stand, her smile suggesting she's witnessed this same reluctance countless times. The Haveli's gift is not in arriving, but in the difficulty of departing. At the doorway you pause, looking back at the courtyard where the fountain continues its eternal conversation with the stone, where the cat has claimed your spot on the cushions, where the ceiling fan turns in its patient circle. The Haveli will be here tomorrow, and for years after, but you carry its quietness with you now, woven into your breath, settled into your bones. You step back into the silk quarter, and the streets receive you gently. The afternoon has aged into something rich and full, like fruit at perfect ripeness. The embroiderer you passed earlier is rolling up his work for the day, gold thread catching the last strong light. The spice pyramids have been covered with cloth, protecting them from the evening dew that will come. Everything is settling, slowing, preparing for the transition ahead. The silk quarter releases you gradually, the streets widening, the sounds of the river beginning to reach you. Temple bells calling the faithful to evening prayers, the distant splash of ritual bathing. The ghats await, and you move toward them slowly. Still held in the afternoon's amber embrace, still hearing the fountain's song in your memory, still feeling the perfect weight of stillness that the Haveli has taught you to carry. The streets leading back to the river have transformed in your absence. What was bright and busy this morning now moves with evening's slower rhythm. Shopkeepers pull down metal gates with soft rattles, the sound echoing through the narrow lanes like rain on tin roofs. The air has cooled just enough to be pleasant against your skin, carrying new scents, evening incense sweeter than morning's, the earthiness of water being sprinkled on dusty stones, food cooking in homes above the shops. Your feet remember the way without conscious thought, following the gentle slope downward, always downward toward the river. Other people move in the same direction, but unhurriedly. Families walking together, children sleepy in their parents' arms, elderly couples supporting each other on the uneven stones, everyone drawn to the water for the day's final ritual, the last conversation with the sacred river before sleep. As you emerge onto Dashashwamed Ghat, the transformation is complete. Where this morning held golden promise, evening offers something deeper. A settling, a release, a gentle letting go. The great steps are less crowded now, the day tourists gone, leaving only those who understand that the river's most intimate moments come after dark. You find a vendor with a basket of shawls and select a pashmina, its softness like a whisper against your fingers. The vendor, an old woman with hands that speak of decades handling fabric, wraps it around your shoulders without being asked, adjusting it with the practiced care of a grandmother. The warmth is immediate, not just physical but something more, a sense of being held, protected, ready for the night's gentle mysteries. A spot opens on the steps, midway between the water and the temple above, and you settle there, the pashmina creating a small cocoon against the cooling air. The stone beneath you still holds warmth from the day, but its surface temperature is dropping, creating a pleasant contrast. Warm below, cool above. Your body finding perfect balance between. The evening aarti has ended, but its echo remains. Priests move slowly through their closing rituals, covering the deity statues with silk cloths, preparing them for sleep. Their movements are tender, almost parental, as if tucking in beloved children. One elderly priest passes close enough that you can smell the sandalwood paste on his forehead, see the fatigue in his movements that speaks of a long day's devotion. Bronze bells ring occasionally, but softly now, not calling anyone, just marking moments, like a clock that measures something other than time. Even the gods sleep in Varanasi. On the water, hundreds of diyas float, small leaf boats carrying flames, each one a prayer made visible. They move with the current but slowly, some caught in eddies where they spiral together before continuing downstream. The river has become a black mirror, and every flame appears twice, once on the boat, once in the reflection, creating a galaxy both above and below the surface. You watch one particular diya as it passes, following its journey until it becomes indistinguishable from the others, just one star in a constellation of light. Your breathing has slowed to match its drift, inhaling as it rocks on a small wave, exhaling as it settles again. The rhythm is hypnotic, inevitable, like watching clouds or counting sheep, but more beautiful, more meaningful. A boatman rows past, his oars creating circles of silver in the black water. He's not carrying passengers now, just heading home, but he rows with the same steady rhythm you remember from this morning. The boat's wooden hull knocks gently against the steps as he pulls it up for the night, securing it with rope that whispers against the iron rings. The sounds of the city behind you are muffling, softening into a distant hum. Somewhere a flute plays, not performed but practiced, the notes stopping and starting as the player works through a difficult passage. A temple bell rings once, then falls silent. Dogs bark in the distance, then they too quiet. The city is preparing for sleep, pulling its blankets of darkness and quiet around itself. You adjust your position slightly, the pashmina shifting with you, maintaining its warm embrace. Your body feels heavy in the best way, not tired but relaxed, each muscle releasing its hold on the day's activities. The stone steps cradle you, their ancient surface worn into subtle curves that seem designed for sitting, for watching, for being still. The river's voice is clearer now that other sounds have quieted. It speaks in many tones, the deep murmur of the main current, the lighter splash against the steps, the gentle slap of water against boat hulls. Beneath it all a constant whisper, like the river telling itself stories in the dark. Your breathing naturally syncs with this rhythm, your chest rising and falling with the water's eternal pulse. More diyas float past, some in groups like small flotillas of light, others solitary, making their journey alone. A family rises to leave, their footsteps soft on the stones, taking the last of the day's energy with them. The space they leave feels like a blessing, more quiet, more room for the night to settle. Your eyelids have grown heavy, not quite closing, but no longer fully open. The world has taken on that soft focus quality of approaching sleep, where edges blur, and everything seems to glow with its own gentle light. The diyas on the water become stars, the stars above become diyas, until sky and river merge into one vast, peaceful darkness, punctuated by points of light. The pashmina has warmed to your body temperature now, no longer something separate but part of you, like wearing comfort itself. Your hands rest in your lap, completely still, your shoulders fully dropped, your spine settled into its natural curve. The river breathes with you, its rhythm matching yours, or perhaps yours matching its eternal pace. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to think about. Just this, sitting by the eternal river as night deepens around you. A boat bumps gently against the steps nearby, the sound soft as a sigh. The rope creaks once as the current pulls, then settles. These small sounds don't disturb but rather deepen the peace, like punctuation in a lullaby. The river knows all the songs, morning's bright chorus, afternoon's drowsy hum, and now, evening's whispered verse that leads to sleep. The last priests are finishing their duties, banking the temple fires, closing doors with careful quiet. The river maintains its constant whisper beneath their movements, water lapping like a liquid lullaby against the steps. Soon it will be just you and the sacred waters, their voice growing clearer as human sounds fade. You're one of the last ones here now. A few others sit scattered along the ghats, each in their own bubble of contemplation. but even they are beginning to stir, to gather themselves for the journey home. Soon it will be just you and the river and the night, a perfect trinity of peace. Your spine releases its last holding, vertebrae settling like stones finding their level, each bone remembering its natural place. Your breathing has become so slow, so deep. It seems to come from somewhere beyond your body. The last diyas drift past, carrying their prayers into darkness. Each inhale draws in the night, river scent and incense, cooling stone and distant flowers. Each exhale releases the day, its colors and sounds, its movements and thoughts, all flowing away on the current. Warmth spreads from your core outward, reaching fingers and toes, like the river's blessing moving through your body. The city sleeps around you. The river flows through you. The night holds you. Your body becomes heavy as the ancient steps beneath you, solid and still, part of the ghat itself. And you rest here, wrapped in pashmina and darkness, watching the last lights dance on sacred waters, the river's breathing deepening with darkness. You feel yourself dissolve into the rhythm that has no beginning, no end. Only this eternal flow that carries everything gently toward morning, toward dreams, toward the perfect stillness that comes when you finally stop trying to be anywhere, but exactly where you are. The ghats will be here tomorrow. The river will still flow. But for now, there's only this moment extending into forever. The sound of water, the floating lights, your breath matching the river's breath. Everything settling, settling into the deep peace that Varanasi has been offering for 3,000 years to anyone willing to sit still long enough to receive it.